Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about East German K98Ks. So like you could say like these are East German reworks or East German made K98Ks or whatever. But I just want to talk about the rifles that were used by the East Germans after World War II. I don't think there's a whole lot of videos out there. There's not a whole lot of information about these East German K98Ks. I got this one like maybe 8 years ago, something like that. So I got this gun, and at first I just thought it was a regular K98K, wartime gun that was just in really, really good shape, because this gun is in really, really good shape. The bluing on it is exceptional. The wood, looks really nice still. So I just thought I got, really lucky finding a deal like this. Apparently my dog wants to make a video, so he's just going to sit here while I do this. You good boy. So there's not a whole lot of things that really sort of give away a K98K as being East German. A lot of people probably wouldn't even suspect that this was East German. They would probably just think that this gun was maybe reblued. There's a few subtle hints that you can look for with K98Ks that'll sort of help you determine whether or not your gun was an East German reissued gun. So we're just going to do a bunch of up closes of this rifle, and we're just going to, I'll show you what they are. So just so you know, I used chalk to kind of try to fill in the markings on this gun just so it shows up a little bit better on camera. I didn't do a very good job, so that's just sort of why there's some white in some spots and not in others. But to start off with, so we see here that this is a BYF 44. So BYF is the code for the late war code for Mauser factory. 44 is, of course, the year this was made, 1944. We see the little Waffenamps on this side. So something to note here about this serial number is that it's a 5-digit serial number. So this is sort of a late war thing that Mauser did. Earlier in the war, there would only be 4-digit serial numbers. And then after it, you'd either see like a or AA or BB or whatever, just a suffix after the digit. But instead of doing that, they just decided to just go 1 digit higher, and then they do less of those suffixes. Now here is one of the big giveaways on this rifle, and that's this crown N here on the barrel. So the Germans during the war, they never used crown N as an acceptance mark. This is a civilian sort of proof mark on the barrel that the Germans never did during World War II. But this is something that is marked on these East German rifles. So this barrel is it's pretty much blank everywhere except for this crown N. Sometimes you'll see a crown N or a crown C, and you'll also find this this marking on bolts and stuff like that. So just the fact that this is on the barrel is a pretty dead giveaway that this is an East German barrel and it's an East German rifle. You can just sort of tell the overall blue that's on this rifle that it is just a very nice blued finish. So what they would do is pretty much just they'd polish these guns up, they'd make them look extra nice, and then they would re-blue them, so they get this very, very deep blue and this almost polished metal surface look to it. So that's going to be another indication that yours is an East German used rifle. Unlike with the Russian captures and other K98Ks that were used by other nations, when the East Germans re-blued these, they did polish the bluing off the top of this rear sight. That way you can just see the numbers here a little bit better. And this is what the Germans did actually during the war too. Okay, so down here we're at the wrist of the rifle now. So down here, this is usually where you'll find some sort of cartouche in the stock that the East Germans placed there. So on this one, it looks like a K7. Sometimes you'll find like a K and a number, so like K7 or K10 inside of a square. You'll find something like that, or you might even find a little sunburst marking, or you might find a like a TG2 marking in a triangle there. So if you suspect your rifle, or at least the stock, is an East German rework stock, just look right here on the wrist, and you can look for little markings. So this is another giveaway that this is East German. So right now I want you to focus on this sort of Nazi eagle here. This is an actual peened eagle. So somebody peened out the swastika off of the eagle. A friend of mine once said this is lovingly pinged, and that just sort of means that this eagle was, the swastika is just barely illegible. It is just really, whatever was used to knock this out, it was perfectly placed inside of the circle underneath the eagle, and it was no other damage was done anywhere else to this whole eagle, just barely enough to take out the swastika. That's something that I've only really noticed on these East German guns, is sort of these lovingly peened eagles. Usually other nations, if they peen the eagles, they peen the whole thing. This will whole just be a big mess. My guess is that the East German armor or soldier that did this, they probably either weren't too crazy about the idea of having to just damage the rifles in general, and so they did it real light, or maybe they were still sort of sympathetic for the German cause in World War II, so they didn't really want to, but it was just barely done on this rifle. This rifle was in my K98k evolution video. So my K98k evolution video, Ian's video on it has like the same title as mine, but mine came first. So if you do a search for it, you'll find Forgotten Weapons video on it. I would just say, watch both of our videos, because I think we both sort of talk about it from slightly different angles. So I think you'll know more if you watch both of them. So this rifle is an example of a what's called a semi-Kriegsmodel. So the Kriegsmodel was a sort of late war variation of the German K98k. This is a semi-Kriegsmodel because it only has a few of those late war variations. Namely, it has the omission of the bolt takedown hole in the stock. Instead, there's just there's a hole drilled in the cup butt plate here. It's drilled through the cup butt plate and through the wood. That way you can disassemble your Mauser bolt here. Now, like I said in that video, don't confuse a German Kriegsmodel stock with an Israeli stock, because the Israelis did drill these holes in it, but the Israelis also added finger grooves. So if you find a stock that has finger grooves and this hole drilled in the butt plate, that's an Israeli stock. The Germans stopped adding the finger grooves to the stock sometime in the 1930s. So I hope you learned something about East German K98Ks. I think these are kind of a little bit of an underappreciated sort of post-war history. Like this particular rifle, it's early enough that it definitely served in World War II, but then it's got some kind of cool post-war history, which is kind of neat. So maybe if you just, if you're maybe a fan of both World War II and maybe East German stuff, if you like, Cold War era rifles, this sort of is a type of rifle that fits a lot of different sort of genres. So appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.